A not unusual evening in Baghdad, with gunfire blasting the night sky. American troops are again trying to clean up the Iraqi capital. But the dangerous weapons and explosives taking lives today are not the ones America wants the most. The more serious hunt is for Saddam Hussein's weapons of mass destruction. And not just the Americans are on the trail. News organizations are in the hunt too, including a WTN investigative team that has spent 7 months trying to solve one of the most important puzzles of the year. Now you have prepared a news story. What do you want to be done with that story if you don't come back by midnight?
You taking care of Patrick and story.
So what do you want us to do with the story, Patrick and I?
Release it.
And other players in this game include ordinary Iraqis who think they have information, many peddlers of real information and rumor, and Saddam's scientists who do know some secrets. The future of both the US and British governments could depend on the truth being revealed about whether Saddam's weapons exist. But while the answer is politically important now, the hunt actually began 13 years ago after the first Gulf War. In 1991, the United Nations attempted to disarm Iraq of all its prohibited weapons, with UNSCOM inspectors tracking down and destroying large quantities of armaments. In the course of the next decade, the Iraqis never did satisfy inspectors that all of their weapons of mass destruction had been destroyed. The 3 executive chairmen of the UN inspection teams, Rolf Ekéus of Sweden, Richard Butler of Australia, and Hans Blix of Sweden, became controversial international figures because the weapons issue was never satisfactorily resolved. The United States and Britain used this uncertainty to launch war against Iraq in April 2003. Now the United States has deployed 2,000 inspectors headed by David Kay to try and resolve the issue once and for all. And WTN, along with other news organizations, are also in the hunt. WTN reporter Wera Sedral entered a Baghdad house of a former high-ranking Iraqi official a few days after the war ended and found a small pilotless plane dismantled and concealed in a bedroom. There were also 5 red-nosed metal projectiles, each marked in paint, "Do not touch," and with Russian markings. The Americans had asserted that a, quote, unmanned aerial vehicle, unquote, like this was under development by Iraq. These drones could carry biological and chemical warheads outside Iraq, U.S. officials said, and could even be dismantled and smuggled into America. Were those found by WTN a smoking gun that could prove America's case against Saddam? Other seemingly significant leads were being peddled by increasing numbers of Iraqis. They turned over material to the government and to journalists. Some seemed worth following up, like the tip to WTN that 10 boxes of prohibited weapons were buried in the backyard of a Baghdad primary school. U.S. officials were interested enough to send along security forces and an excavator to check it out. And they dug and dug for 4 hours or so before turning up some interesting buried documents, but no weapons. This is the kind of frustration UN inspectors had faced for a decade. Another tip, this time missiles carrying weaponized biological and chemical materials and secretly buried in the Al-Saida military camp near Baghdad. Special U.S. agents accompanied WTN Sedral to the camp and talked with informants. Once said that a month before the recent war, Saddam's agents seized the whole camp. He took the team to a building. He said the missiles were buried here. The Americans were left to act on whether or not to dig up the alleged missiles. In July, the trail heated up. WTN decided to launch its own, quote, Mission Oasis, unquote, secretly bringing scientists into Iraq under news cover. These Swedish experts evaluated sensitive information from several chemical and biological scientists who demanded anonymity and who doubted they could get it from the American authorities. The Iraqis had documents purporting to prove that Saddam was continuing to produce biological and chemical materials and had hidden specially designed missiles capable of carrying the materials. The final report from the Swedish experts described the Iraqi claims as, quote, very interesting, unquote, but declined to make a final assessment on their merits. One of the scientists showed WTN a map of the area where he said the missiles were hidden. He remembered that UN inspectors had been digging there, but not at the specific burial site.